Hello and welcome. I am Gauhar Raza and you are watching Eureka. Human beings started domestication much long before the advent of civilization. In fact, one of the factors that led to civilization was domestication of animals. Animals became wealth, and this wealth got converted into national wealth. Today, I am here at the institute which deals with genomics of animals. Welcome, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you.
I am very thankful that you have given so much of time to us and have agreed to appear on RSTV.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Let's go back to memory lane. When you were a child, did you ever think that you will become director of an institute, and that too animal institute?
What to talk of director, I never thought that I'll become a scientist. Though I had a little passion of doing something new, and new means something which nobody can even think of. And you may call that passion has now been translated to undertake something new, do some research for the benefit of mankind. And I selected genetics as my profession.
Benefit of animals also.
Oh yes, through the benefit of animals, I am serving the society.
You come from Uttar Pradesh originally, and you are third generation educated person. Your grandfather was educated, your mother, father, everybody was educated. Did it help you to get better education? Do you feel that?
Sure, sure. In fact, my grandmother was a school teacher at a time when women were not supposed to go to school. And that really helped me. She always encouraged me to start early education. And you'll be surprised that I completed my matriculation when I was only 13.5 years of age. And this was primarily because of my grandmother and my father, who really took command of me right from the age of 2 or 3 years only.
But both of them, your grandmother, your father, did not have anything to do with science. How did you get attracted towards science?
Oh, in fact, my father was a man of literature. He was a professor of English. And in our house, we had an environment of books only, either books or the religious ceremonies which my mother and grandmother did. And one of the books I got was of Thomas Alva Edison. You know that Thomas Alva Edison was a great scientist from US. And when I started reading that person, I really got fascinated and attracted. And I purchased at least a dozen books which really told me what Thomas was. And that was the turning point. I observed that Thomas failed so many times, still he said, I can succeed. And probably that gave me the edge to do something and adopt science as my profession.
Yeah, Edison failed more times than he succeeded. In fact, he kept on experimenting relentlessly. But that was a turning point. Do you have other turning points in life?
Yes, when I went to school, I used to do some experiments in the laboratory. And since I was from a middle class family, we didn't have our own house. We were staying in a rented building. My father gave me an almirah that you keep your books here, but I prefer to keep some chemicals. I used to bring chemicals from my chemistry demonstrator, teachers in the school, and repeat the same experiments in my own house also. From my own pocket money, I purchased some salts, I purchased some acids, I purchased some alkaline material, and repeated the same experiment which my teachers did in the school. And that way I really enjoyed doing research at home also.
Was it an individual activity?
No, it was perfectly an individual activity.
You didn't have friends doing the same thing?
No.
So you had decided that you will be doing research at that level?
No, that was only my passion, but by profession I adopted science because I could not qualify for the medical examination after 12th standard. So my father said that since you want to become a geneticist. In fact, even if I had become a doctor, I would have adopted human genetics as my profession. And genetics as a subject was really running in my blood. So I thought that if I could not become a human geneticist, let me either become...
There are two questions. One question is that why didn't you become a chemist then? Why did you choose biology?
Right. Because I knew that...
There was a pressure to become doctor?
No, there was no pressure. My father, but in fact, it's always a society which puts the pressure. My parents never put any pressure.
But there was a
There was, yes.
that
Because
you wanted to become a
yes,
doctor, because
sure.
everybody wanted to become a
Yes,
doctor.
a biologist always wanted to become a doctor, so I also thought like this.
You thought like that, and that's why you left chemistry,
Yes.
which was your
But I
passion.
knew the life is also chemistry. The basic molecule of life is also a chemical.
You knew
so
it at the school
yes,
level?
at the school level itself. Like 12th standard only I knew it.
But genetics was not taught at that time. How did you decide that you will be?
Some part of genetics was taught. We were knowing that DNA is a molecule, which is real science. I wrote a couple of letters to then Nobel laureate Hargobind Khurana also. I wanted to go to his laboratory after doing graduation.
Did you receive
yes, I received
letters
the reply. I received handwritten letters.
Handwritten letters. They must be very precious. You
Yes,
must have been very excited
yes,
as a
they were
student.
excited.
This is at school level.
No, at the college level.
At the college
At the graduation level.
And then you decided to do your PhD. What was your problem? PhD.
See, in PhD, I joined National Dairy Research Institute as a master's student in dairy science with a specialization in animal genetics and breeding. Then I continued for my PhD program also. And for my PhD program, I wanted to predict a model by which I can tell you that this will be the lifetime performance of Murrah buffaloes and this will be the lifetime profit of Murrah buffaloes based on its performance in the very first lactation itself.
So you did basically statistical work.
Exactly.
As a problem, PhD problem at that time. You didn't do any practical work.
It was a practical work, but I didn't do any laboratory work, you can say like this.
You didn't do any laboratory work at that time, but the data was analyzed and predictive model was constructed.
Exactly.
The discussion will continue. Don't go anywhere. I have to take a break. Welcome back. Dr. Arjava Sharma, you have worked mainly on a model where for your experimental purposes, you've been using mice. Now, how does it translate the work that you do with mice to animals? And these are varied animals that you have been studying. How does that happen? And why mice?
See, one of the problem with livestock species, including cattle and buffalo, is that the gestation period is very large. So, the reproduction rate is limited in the sense that we don't get many offsprings, many progenies in its lifetime. So, a technology of embryo biotechnology was coming up at that time, by which we can produce maybe dozen, maybe 2 dozen or maybe 5 dozen live calves from a single female cow or buffalo. Now, in India, that was a new technology. I got the opportunity of visiting West Germany. I worked in 3-4 good laboratories with the help of a fellowship, what we call now DART fellowship. It was awarded by German government, and I got an exposure to work in the different fields of animal biotechnology with a specialization in embryo biotechnology.
Do you think that interaction with international groups all over the world helps in developing your vision to what should be the future of the area that you are working in?
Sure, I got exposure to well-known laboratories. They were the
If you
world
hadn't
leaders.
gone there, would you be the same scientist?
No, I would have chosen some other field. But the one you are talking, that why and how working with the laboratory animals helped me. When I came back from Germany and other European countries, we used mouse or rabbit or rat or even the guinea pigs as the experimental model. I can't take a cow and produce and do any experiment because a cow needs 4 years to produce the next progeny. So we selected mouse as a model in which we did a lot of experiments.
Produces progeny very fast.
Within 21 days.
Within 21 days. So within a year probably you can have many generations.
We can do many trials, we can change the experiment, we can try some other methodology to have more production of embryos. So to standardize this technology in large animals, we have to utilize laboratory animals for all experimental purpose.
And the kind of models that you have created based on the data collected from mice, have they worked in
Yes,
field?
they have worked.
Could you give an example
Especially
of a problem that you have cracked?
Exactly. Especially in the reproduction science, when a sperm meets oocyte, the sperm must get capacitated. It means it must be able to penetrate the oocyte. Now, this procedure of capacitation in buffalo and cattle takes a little longer time, and it is quite unpredictable. So, we utilized a new phospholipid which is called platelet activating factors. We utilized it, we tried it in case of mouse, we standardized the quantity, we standardized the times, and it really worked. And it is being used in many countries now to do this.
Is it being used in India?
It is being used.
And it is a technology which is now standardized and used all over the country for breeding cows.
Yes. For penetration of oocyte with sperm.
Right.
So that we can get more embryos.
Which is ultimately breeding.
Exactly, breeding.
The cows, ultimately. Somebody may ask question, and this is a repeated question which is asked, that you might be interested in cracking a problem. Why should nation spend so much of money on basic research? Why shouldn't we buy this from outside? Somebody today, if it's not been done, then somebody will do it tomorrow and we buy it.
You are right, but this logic is more applicable in case of physical sciences. It's not that much applicable in case of biological sciences. We have our own biological diversity which is not available anywhere. For example, we have got different breeds of buffaloes which are limited to India only. Their production, their reproduction, their growth, their adaptation, they're altogether different from the other species.
Is there any other country which has this kind of biodiversity?
No. India is number one as far as the biodiversity is concerned. And we are proud of it. Yes, I'm sure. And we are proud of it.
You are making a statement that India is the only country.
India is the largest biodiversity in the world.
Biodiversity country.
Of domestic animals.
And we should preserve it.
We must preserve it. In fact, we can preserve only when we know what we have got. So the basic question is that what is our biological wealth? What is the national treasure? And this is what this National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resource is doing it. We are trying to identify different genotypes, different germplasm of livestock and poultry. We evaluate it, we characterize it, we conserve it, and we utilize it so that this is beneficial for the human beings.
Some common person can raise a finger and say that for 4,000 years we have survived without this codification that you are talking about, without knowing what genetics is, without knowing about DNA. We will survive another 4,000 years. Why should we spend money on this?
Absolutely, you're right. You raised a very important question and I always fight for it. See, earlier what was happening, we had our own genetic resources which were adapted, which were suitable and which were surviving in different livestock production system. India is a country which has got many production systems. We have got zero input, we have got low input, we have got high input. In all the cases, we have got a temperature of 55 degrees centigrade, we have got temperature of minus 55 degrees centigrade, there is a desert, there is a sea coast, there is a rainy area, there is a forest, all kind of production system are there. But what happened in the last 40-50 years, we neglected our genetic resources and by virtue of our greed, we tried to bring some different genotypes, some different germplasm from outside the country. We introduced it here. We neglected our own genetic resources. So this is happening in last 20-30 years. That's why we have to protect our own genetic diversity. We have to protect our own genetic resources. We have to conserve it. We have to utilize it.
This happened mainly because we were not literate enough to know what wealth we have. We already have wealth.
And for short-term gain, we adopted the crossbreeding, which is now giving its ill effect. We should not have done it. We have got indigenous cattle breeds, we have got indigenous buffalo breeds, there are very good goat breeds, sheep breeds.
We could have done much better if we had not imported those breeds.
Yes, exactly.
I have to take a break. Don't go anywhere. The discussion is becoming more intense. We'll come back soon. Welcome back, Dr. Arjava Sharma. It's very interesting statement. In fact, two statements you have made excite me a lot. That India has the largest biodiversity. The second one is we don't know about this wealth that we contain. So as a nation, do you think that we need more scientists working in this area? Or do you think more money should be pumped in? Do you think that we should intensify our basic and fundamental research and only then we will become aware of what wealth we have.
See, I'll take you a step back. India is a land of diversity. There is diversity in virtually every walk of life. You talk of languages, you talk of dresses, you talk of food, you talk of religion, you talk of society. There is a lot of diversity. But probably the biggest and the most important diversity is the biodiversity. It is this biodiversity which is helping the human beings to survive. It is this biodiversity which is making us to meet our own life in terms of the food, shelter and clothing. That is the basic requirement of the country, but we have not valued it as much as we should have done. The reason being that whatever we get from animals, we always take it as our right. We always think that let us have rice, let us have vegetable, let us have fruit, but very people talk how important is the animal protein, very people talk how important is the milk, how important is the egg, how important is the meat, how important is the wool, and above all the animal wealth, the livestock biodiversity. This is providing this country many other things like the animal energy. When we talk of energy, we always forget how much utilization is being, how much contribution is there from the livestock resources. We talk of oil, we talk of sun, we talk of wind, but we forget how much energy is being supplied by the bullocks which are flowing the coal. It's huge amount.
Percentage, yes.
Right, this is one thing. The second aspect of contribution of livestock is that they are contributing a lot toward the soil fertility, which is invaluable. We are trying to import millions, worth millions of rupees, fertilizers, chemicals, adding it to the soil to enrich it, but we are forgetting how much livestock dung is going to the soil, which is making this soil highly usable. That's indirect contribution. And third thing is, we should not forget that livestock is very much integrated with our social system. There is hardly any family which doesn't love the buffalo, the cows, the dogs, the cats, something is related to them. So what we need is we have to sensitize the policymakers, we have to bring awareness among the planners, and we have to educate the young generation to respect the animal so that they can serve it better for time to come.
This is fine, but somebody may ask another question related to it, that why shouldn't we switch over from animal dependence on animal or agriculture straight to industrialization, which is the model all over the world probably.
See, this model is available in those countries which are really industrialized, where nature has not been that much
benevolent.
Yes, favorable to the system, which is there in India. We get a lot of sunshine, there are a lot of mountains, there are a lot of rivers, there is a lot of soil. So, in these circumstances,
and we should value that
is,
instead of following the Western model.
System.
That is what
exactly
you are proposing.
Yes. In Europe, for example, there is snow for 6 months or 7 months, and they hardly get one crop in 13 or 14 months. That's not the situation in our country. So that way we are fortunate.
We are fortunate and rich, and we should maintain. Now, for that, in today's world, you require highest amount of technological development. You require machines, you require computer systems, and very big computer systems to maintain this data, to look and preserve things, like you are preserving genome for the livestock for generations to come. Now, you need to pump in so much of money. What level of confidence you as a scientist has that this could be preserved for generations? Because we are spending money today, tomorrow they may not utilize it.
Well, my only reply to your query is that, for example, in our institute in NBAGR, we have got a national gene bank in which we are spending quite a good amount of money. We are preserving the germplasm for the future. You
are preserving semen,
and we are preserving and very good quality semen for different breeds of cattle and buffalo, goat, sheep, and that's available to the farmers of the country. They can come and take it anytime. And we want to carry on this gene bank for two purposes. One is this will be a national repository of all the biodiversity that we have got, And second is that we will serve the farmers by supplying this germplasm for time to come.
Would you like to sign off by giving a message to younger generation?
Oh, I am not that old to give any message. The only thing I can say that science is not something that is carried out in a laboratory. Science doesn't mean shaking the test tubes or mixing the two chemicals. Science means logical thinking. You have to think logically and you have to work logically. It can be in the field of biology, it can be in the field of humanities, it can be in the field of literature. Everywhere science matters. Science means logical thinking and application of those logical forces for the benefit of human.
Science is logical thinking, and you have to act on this logic, and then you may hit a new product. Advance science and touch the frontiers. Today we take back this message home. May I, on your behalf, promise our viewers that you will be happy to answer questions if they have any?
Sure, anytime.
Write to us at eurekarstv@gmail.com. Next week, we'll come back again with another scientist who has excelled in his own area. Till then, goodbye.